Hello, everyone that is hopping on. Get my screen up here quick. All right, hello, everyone. Pop a hello in the chat box if you can find that on your screen. And also feel free to let us know where you're watching from and what business you are with. All right. Well, I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but welcome everyone to another Grow Nebraska webinar. Today's topic is branding and identity systems. So thank you to everyone tuning in live, and thank you to our presenters for today. So we'll go ahead and get started. As always, a huge thank you to Center for Rural Affairs for being a sponsor of the Grow Nebraska Foundation. Of course, without our sponsors, our presenters, our viewers, and our Grow Nebraska members, none of this would be possible. Our featured sponsor for October is BNSF Railway, so a huge shout out to them. And our featured member is Broken Spoke Boutique, and they joined Grow Nebraska just this year, so it's been great to work with them in their business. And then this week's presenter is Alan Tipp and Steve Gordon. So huge thank you to these two for presenting today. And this actually is the first time that we've had two presenters at once. So I'm super excited. And if you have any questions for them, be sure to pop them in the chat, or you can leave a question in the Q&A tab as well. So I will let you guys take over, and I will shut my video and mic off.
No worries. Hey, how's everyone doing?
Hello, everybody.
So yeah, I'm Alan Tipp and
Steve Gordon.
We are co-creators, if you will. We both operate independently, two different businesses. I own and operate Atypical, and it's a design development shop that specializes in eyewear, but I also help with branding and identity projects. And when some of those projects are beyond just what one person can handle, I team up with this guy right here, who is an expert at branding. So I'll let Steve introduce his company and then our joint venture after that.
I operate Ridiculous. I am a branding and consulting specialist working on identity design, branding, and storytelling. And so, as Alan said, when there is a project that calls on more than one of our skill set, we together have joined to create Creative Council.
Right. So creativecouncil.co is our collective entity. We both have a pretty vast experience, I'd say mostly in sport, kind of rooted in athletics, right? Would you say on some level? Yeah, and then lifestyle.
And then you're a product designer.
That's right.
And so I've done some illustration and some work with actually not retail, but development. So
yeah, Steve has his lifestyle clothing brand. I'd say it's more than just clothing. I'd say it's just everyday objects, accessories. And I've been designing, developing products as an industrial designer. This is what I went to school for. It's my degree is in industrial design. For those unfamiliar, it's essentially everyday modern product design that you might find that shape the objects that are around us. But I'm a firm believer that, to me, design is design, whether you are cooking in the kitchen and you come up with the ingredients that make up the final dish, the energy and the thought that goes into the process, the development process is really passion of mine. And I always like to do more with less and try to create and innovate on objects, not just to do marginal small improvements, but to really try to do revolutionary, groundbreaking design. And I think when we partner up together, we just try to implore a lot of those aspects of efficiency and doing more with less, trying to make things aesthetically beautiful and solutions that are going to help your business grow. through marketing that is differentiated than anything else you'd see, and try to help you stand out in a sea of sameness. What would you say?
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of times when we do collaborate, we complement each other's skill sets. I'm a firm believer of simplicity is elegance. And so trying to solve the puzzle in the most succinct way, and then can I do that beautifully? And so we definitely complement each other in that.
And I think, we're new to this format. Steve and I both have given talks to students at the university level. And also we do counsel folks when they have branding questions. We do a brand box package essentially, which allows someone who's just trying to start off with the brand, get a firm foundation of what it is that's going to build the personality, look, feel, and positioning of the brand beyond just, I need to hire someone because I need a logo. And that's what we'll get into today on this talk. And we can kind of go through a case study of some brands we've worked on, but we'll specifically talk about one in particular.
Yeah.
So if you'd like, I will go ahead and share screen here. All right, and if everyone can see this, if you drop a thumbs up in the chat or something, let us know. We're good here. Yep, okay, thank you, Jordan. All right, so this is our website, creativeconsole.co. We essentially make what you make better, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. A lot of this is a little tongue-in-cheek here, but we do offer retainer services. The tongue-in-cheek portion is the asking a cousin who got you your Mac for a birthday gift, and how this affects creative writing, and yeah, your success rate and your worries go way up the charts here when you hire us. So just getting into some client work. Both of us have had the privilege of redesigning. If you're local to Omaha, you may know about the Papillion Landing. But really, this was founded on a project by Mayor Black, who had talked to us about his vision. The name was kind of already pre-established, right? And then we inherited the name, but we're like, how can we provide meaning and context to this? And of course, Papillon was the name for a butterfly, and we gave it this sport, modernized dawn of a new day aesthetic with the sun, and this branding, the motif gets carried throughout the building in a lot of unique ways and patterns. But I think what was really cool is that Steve wrote this paragraph that's just sitting right there. It's in stone, it's etched on the building, and you can speak to your legacy in a way that's just super heartwarming to have, the endorsement of the city, the mayor, and everyone else that just kind of put your words on paper. And Steve's a storyteller, and I really think that if you read this, it sums up a lot of what the brand ultimately provided at the end of the day, and not just a logo.
We were pretty surprised when they said they were going to do a memorial plaque, and we walked in to see some of the writing that started off our branding process with them. Alan and I kind of looked at each other like, wow, we didn't know that would be happening. But as a storyteller, it's very important for me to not only communicate through words and design, but all of the above. And so any type of communication is what I like to use. I end up outputting visual communication, but it often starts with written language also.
Right. So, I'll go back. Apologies there. Yeah. This is a brand new gym facility that's opened up kind of by the Anglin building off of
downtown Omaha. We also inherited this name, so we often find that in branding, as clients come to need our services, a lot of times they have hit a snag in the road. they have hit a blocking point or a hurdle, and they've got a lot of things already in the hopper. They've got a lot of ideas already brewing. We would essentially like to be invited to the process, invited to the party a little sooner, but we often work with inherited assets, inherited names, and we have to try to build story within and around these things. And so often that's the challenge of visual communication, of design, is taking what the client already has in hand, enhancing that in a way that when they walk away, and I often say this, like, no project I work on is mine. I'm working on someone else's project. So I need to, and Alan and I need to design and create in a way that allows that to live once we push the boat out into the water.
Yep. Oh, there we go. Want to talk about radius?
Yeah, do we have any other?
Oh, we do have radius. We're going to get back to radius.
Yeah.
Pixelbird was an NFT project that was brought to us. This is the branding identity for it. I mean, there's a whole slew, but Rise was a you may have heard of it, formerly known as Defy Ventures. Defy Ventures then branched out on its own and became Rise, and it helps with prison population, helping reducing recidivism and repeat offenders through an in-prison program that involves the community. And so this aspect of rising up and doing better for yourself and your community was thematic, and just kind of planting a flag at the end of the day. And this takes on this flag shape.
Yeah, this was definitely a project where the simpler output, the simpler solution was the most elegant, because the storytelling was more about images, the faces of the people, to personify offenders and people who are incarcerated, and personalize them to show that they're just people who were facing a struggle. And to have a heavy-handed brand was not going to service this particular client the way that they should be and deserve.
Yeah, and it's very graduate level. They're after the course and the programming, the thousands of hours that they go through to participate is also really embedded in the idea of the mark too, which is also this academic, more or less looking mark. But yeah, this one was a great project. And then we've also do some projects on the side, this was for a construction company
that didn't want to look like a construction company.
Yep.
So we had to make something that was a little more creative, a little more stylish, if you will, but still have some of the elements that would stand out on a construction site and could be recognized.
Yep. Well, I'll end there and then jump into the case study for Radius, just to kind of understand how brand kind of comes about. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand or pop it in the comments. So, do you want to talk about Radius?
Yeah. So Radius was initially what was the Nebraska Youth Justice Initiative. As soon as you enter the word justice and youth, we knew that there was going to be a major problem with the development of yet another jail, with the development of yet another facility to incarcerate young people. And so we knew that the new facility, and we started out right here in our quadrant for positioning to not reuse NYJI. We called it new facility, because right from the outset, we knew that we had to tell a story that was more conducive for not only the community, but for the specific neighborhood that it was going to exist in. Because what this facility would be is a facility for youth offenders who they wanted to, instead of sending them to an offsite facility out of state, far across the country, away from where their home was and away from where they offended, we knew that this was going to sit within the community. It was not going to be a jail, but it was going to be a secure facility. And so how do you tell the story of youth incarceration? And this is court ordered. This is not voluntary. They are in the criminal justice system. How do you tell that story in a positive leaning way to give these kids a chance after they've done their time?
And it started really with this idea of positioning. So you have to position to know where your brand's going to go before you can just arbitrarily start drafting a logo. It really wasn't about the logo right now. This was about establishing the tenets of what this brand stood for. And they wanted to be about proximity, being closer to where you offended. And in a lot of cases, Boys Town is actually serving more and it's too far away.
Yes. And if you can imagine,
there's no bus route to get you to Boys Town.
Exactly.
So like
Exactly.
there are some things where family support system is still impossible for visits and things like that.
Yep.
The Omaha Boys, while it was closer to a lot of things that were going on in the neighborhood, also its capacity is also at
capacity was stretched, and they didn't have some of the
mental health services.
yeah, some of the particular services that needed to be offered in order to have a program be successful. Also, one of the key points that you'll see here, and it's the subtext of this, is admitting that there's others out there like you. We love to think that we're the only ones doing this thing that we're doing, and we've created this magic widget or this magic service that no one else is offering. But the truth is, there's a few billion people on the planet. Somebody's had a similar idea to you. The better truth is to find out where you sit. Where is your positioning to find your unique selling point or your unique offering inside the landscape that might have others doing similar things to you?
Right. And where we also saw, I didn't know the name of the Arizona facility. I don't really recall it at this point, but I thought it was Boys Town sending folks to Arizona.
Yeah.
So again, this was a huge problem. Not only did they offend the recorder to then ultimately go to Arizona for the rehabilitation.
No support, foreign environment, far away from home. You know, even if you've messed up, you do need people there around you to help you through things.
Yep. So then we talk about these themes of community, proximity, place for change, hope, and then we get into this whole naming vetting option. And you're only seeing 2 names presented here.
We had maybe a total of about 6 to 8 of them.
Right. So we were hired to come up with a name for the facility because they knew it wasn't going to be called the Nebraska Youth Justice Initiative. It was a mouthful. We wanted an easy to say name that described a lot of these things. And so you can see some of our talking points, I guess you will, as to why this felt like the right reference.
And this was done with client input. They helped us whittle down the naming to something that they felt they could move forward with. There were lots of names that had 1 or 2 things, but it needed to be all encompassing. And so they very quickly, as we offered them naming, they put it through some of their metrics. I think they did some Google polling.
Yep, they did. And they involved the community to make sure the location of where this was too, on 50th and Ames.
Yeah, right around 52nd and Ames,
Yeah. We looked at the heritage of that space. I believe it was on a farm, right?
It was on a farm that was then shared now by
the church.
A church that is no longer an operating church, but they still have a pass, a glen out back, a big green space, which used to be a horse pasture right in the middle of what would now be considered the inner city.
Right. So yeah, this was a place to write a new chapter. The point or a pass was a landmark on a grand journey. So the point that the pass was an option, and we also came up with radius. This whole idea of being there's boundaries to this radius, but you're within your sphere of influence, so that you can come full circle in your transformation. And this idea of it starting at the center, the very epicenter of a radius, starts with you, the person.
And that was a big point, because especially with a lot of youth justice, there's a lot of bleeding heart sentiment that they're just kids. they don't know any better, and that's fine. But we did want to involve part of the story that says, take responsibility. You are at the middle of everything that is happening. And that was a very important point for that particular naming to work both community centric, but also person centric.
Right. And that proximity then played into this idea. So it's not only affecting from your sphere of influence out, your family, then your school and your broader community, but we also talked about where could you establish these locations. And there should be a radius Omaha, there should be a radius Lincoln, a radius Kearney. That it should be have this ability to then franchise this model out.
Yeah, because even 50 miles between Lincoln and Omaha is too far for a young person who is struggling and going through some things and needs their entire support network and their community. So the idea would be you could put one of these facilities in the community that needs it, where the kids need it, where the families need it, and still have the branding be centric to the mission or the goal.
Yeah, so I mean, we could read through some of these, but it's this idea that it took a ripple effect, this idea of finding your path, like radar. It starts to then send a signal out, report back. A lot of cool meanings with radius. Ultimately, they selected radius as the name, but that allowed us to then think of logo mark options that were related to this. And so I think you'll see in the options, it was like, do you have this R that then radiates out through a ripple? Can you have this ripple effect where I was in the center? Radius. We just kind of took a few swings on some sketches, but I think beyond this, these are the three we presented, but we probably do about 50 to 100 or so of hand sketches to just keep things loose and black and white at first, just to not bias anyone on color. But the idea is just, does this mark feel like it's going in the right direction? So,
and we can rapidly prototype that way. With Alan and I both having the ability to illustrate and draw, that helps a lot, because people respond to sketch marks and they know they're not permanent, but they do lead you down a direction. And so that was good for us to be able to start like this. We often also take wide swings and then we take some safer swings. That is to test the waters and see if the client is willing to take a big leap, or if they do need to feel a little bit safer in their choice, feel like their message can be communicated better with that. Uniquely in this instance, our client that we were working with, Youth Justice Initiative, they really wanted to go with the big swing, but they needed they knew that legibility, reproducibility for signage and things needed to be important.
Yeah, and I want you to read what you wrote for the directions, because it's interesting where this ends up later.
Yeah, okay, so very similarly to Papillion, this was the lead off to presenting these ideas, and it shows where communication, both visual and written, are important. So the sphere of influence begins with you at the center. A ripple effect created touches everything you are connected to: family, friends, neighborhood, community. Proximity to all affected is crucial, not only for support, but also for recompense, reconciliation, repair, and reconnection. This is radius.
Yeah, and a lot of those are names: recompense, reconciliation, repair, were some other names that I think we presented at some point along the way. But of course, you do your Google,
your due diligence
on availability of URLs, and
which is another part of branding. It cannot be assumed, again, 3 billion people on the planet, someone else had an idea similar to yours. Your .com probably isn't there. In most instances now, with the web now being several decades old, you do have to vet the name that you come up with, not only for your personal usage or your business usage, but how it can be communicated out to your audience, your clientele, because a lot of things, from naming, website, trademark, a lot of things are taken.
Right. So yeah, this is how it ended up. This was the final presentation. They did go with that last sketch that you saw at the bottom, which is essentially an R, which starts at the epicenter, points to the center.
It's kind of, it was meant to be a radar sweep, like we had mentioned, where your Doppler radar is central to a location and it's picking up and creating the image as it sweeps through. So this radius, literally a radius from the center to the outer edge, is what a radius is of a circle. And this radar sweep was showing how this brand would be affecting the community from its center point.
And then we took that that mark, and when the mark lives next to the word mark, or with kind of live alone, we took the same point, and then you have these ripple effects slice through the word.
And the cool thing for that, and I'm kind of a geek about these details. Remember, I said the simplest solution, elegant solution, and then can we make it beautiful? The R turning into a radius itself. If you look at where those concentric lines radiate out from, they are at the center point of the tail of the R. And so just little tiny details like that that matter to your brain, even if you don't recognize them right away.
And we knew in this case, we were trying to create a friendlier, warm color palette that was about cleansing and growth, and it was blended on purpose. This is why we did a gradient.
And quite frankly, it couldn't be owned by any one particular gang or affiliation. So the gradient actually is their color, made from these 5 colors. And that took a little bit of explanation on our part to help them understand that the gradient is your color for that particular reason.
And then you'll see how the gradient plays off into other things and how it plays off into the building. But we also didn't want Radius to feel like an institution. We were thinking about staff, and is this a brand that you'd feel confident enough to wear outside of its context too?
And these kids are actually going to school inside of this facility, where they are for a limited stay. That's another point that should be conveyed, is they are not there permanently. They are passing through this facility, and they're going to high school inside of this facility. Right. So we wanted it to be something that they could be proud of, almost like any kid their age would be. And that's what we had to continually remember and continually convey, is that a kid like this that goes to a normal high school. These kids aren't that far away from a kid you know. And so we have to furnish them with things that would make a kid of that age proud of their current situation.
Yeah, so we personified not only the brand, but who would be using it, the use case. And then this is a potential brand adoption. These aren't real objects right now. These were mock-ups. And we did this mock-up stage to just make things more real, for you to understand how can your brand live outside of paper.
Right.
And so
it's like a meal. I could cook individual elements of a meal. It's not a meal until I plate them all together and let you see them in context.
Yeah, so this really helped with the board's adoption, the name, the mark, everything from that point forward. And we started thinking about the staff too. What's the staff going to wear? How can we kick it up from a t-shirt but still be professional? And then this was, I think, our announcement after their day.
They surprised us with this. They called us to a meeting in the office, and they wanted to surprise us by showing us some of their new step and repeat and signage, things that they will go out to conferences and trade shows with to start to talk about their facility. Yeah, and I know I'm covering it up, but
what became their mission statement was born from that same statement you saw inside of there. At Radius, our mission is to empower youth, families through community engagement and trauma-informed education. And it starts to go on. Keep Omaha youth in their community to receive treatment and education while preventing them from disruption, family relationships, local support, which are central to future success. It actually made its way into the back, I think.
So we did all of their collateral. We did their brand standards, of course, but If you pop back a bit, you can see one more to the folder. Even the folder itself was born from the need to be able to show the facility, to have a takeaway into the community, but then also have something that was useful for a family that needed to store some items. So this is a third sized folder. It's not a full 9 by 12 pocket folder that you would be used to. It can fold down into a hand-sized pocket folder that could carry a folded piece of 8.5 by 11 paper, any notes that they would make, and then it would also have a business card slot where they could put their business card in, and so I was really proud of some of the collateral and how the collateral rolled out to convey the message.
Right. And just to get into some of the construction details, this was in here, but how your brand's going to take on a lot of different use case scenarios, whether it's a emoticon on your URL, social media handle. So how does it live in a circle? How does it live in a lockup square? And we do a lot of these proportions, and we calculate and we figure all this out with safe space and padding. And then we give you these assets so that these assets can then be applied.
So when you ask for a logo, you can see you're probably going to get 26 logos if your creative professional is doing their job the right way.
Yep. And you can see this is how.
Yeah, the banner we were standing in front of. On the flip side was their step and repeat for any photo ops, graduations, and any kind of celebrations, because they did have this in mind. Again, these kids were meant to come through this facility and then re-enter the community and become stable members of their society, of their community, from their families to their schools to their neighborhoods. And so celebration at the end of this was meant to be a thing. And, we don't like to think about it as a business, but they did have to go to trade shows. They do have to raise funding. And so a lot of the marketing was to a donor base and to the community.
Yep. And you can see this is some photos from the inside of the facility where the color scheme's been played out. It's plaques on the door, it's carpeting, it's colors on walls, it's tiles. And they've given these color palettes and standards to local artists who have come in and decorated the space as well. But it's a very warm, inviting place. If you go to the website, you can see there's a mindfulness room right here where they can practice yoga. And there's light therapy inside of there. There's activity space, there's a gym. And an area to cook and prepare meals, and you can see the same colors now in the motif of the tile, how it gets carried out, and the tables and the classrooms and the signage that's on every door. Yeah, so that was it's kind of a sneak peek behind kind of how the facility turned out, the process behind it. And
really how far branding actually takes you into your facility, right down to the fact is when people are occupying this space, they're seeing our colors, they're seeing all of the elements that we chose. Can you go back to, we didn't show them the signage. This was a really big deal, the signage on the front.
Yeah, we'll go back right there.
That's actual signage where we wanted them to do it right. And we talked back and forth with the sign company to make sure that this would represent the right way. They had to be able to get the knock through radial lines to do it the right way. And it was actually kind of frustrating to make sure they did this the right way, because everyone involved deserved to have this be a top-notch brand.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say I'd open the floor up to questions. What do you have to say about your brand? Anything that you're looking for advice on? We're happy to answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zoe, I'll let you.
Yeah, Zoe, if you want to take the presentation back over. we can stop the screen share.
Okay, we will see if there's any questions. Any and all questions are welcomed, so don't be afraid.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. She said she liked what we did with Rise.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, Rise. I remember even the thank you notes, the paper, and everything we used was like a, what do you call this?
Oh yeah,
It's like a chipboard.
Yeah, the paper choice for Rise was super important. We wanted it to have a similar life to what the people themselves had. We wanted it to be imperfect but beautiful. We wanted it to have a touch and a feel to it, and so even down to the paper that we chose and the print method that we chose for their leave behind was super important.
Yeah, great. Okay. Can't figure out my audience. Have you guys worked with professional services companies? Kind of professional services.
Yeah, professional services, as in what?
You can clarify that.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time making my brand more of a visual that carries the theme through my business. I'm going to try and map that out more like this. All right, thanks.
Yeah, I think that would work. It would help to have a process. Again, the short of it is, yes, we create artwork, but the grander story, and that's why we chose to have Radius as our example, is all of that is very important in taking all of that theme through your business from start to finish. From the moment people hit the door or when they hear about you, your brand is speaking on its own, even when you aren't there to speak for it. And a lot of that has to do less with the artwork being up front and more with the artwork being a result of the story.
Oh, like a CPA. Yes. In fact, I just did the branding a couple years ago, 2018, for Audit Miner.
Yeah.
They do employee benefit audits, and started an entire brand that was, it's interesting, we started looking at the calculator and the ledger paper, and those inform the colors, and but she's gone really far with the brand. It's a Nebraska-based company called Audit Miner.
We've done a lot of work with community health development partners. Yeah.
That too.
So
yeah.
CHDP has a lot of that.
How do you begin when creating a logo?
Through that process that you just saw on most of the logos that we design that have a full brand, but even with just a simple logo, sketching out the idea and not having that be precious, like sketch it again. Even if you sketch the same thing 20 times, continue to have some variations on it so that you flesh out all the ideas. It has to be as far away from clip art as you can possibly get. So I wouldn't settle on the first option.
Yeah. Taking a website from storefront can be hard. Trying to figure out how to decorate and carry my theme from my website into the store when it's rented space and you can't necessarily change everything outside of paint and decor.
Okay. Yeah. If you can change paint and decor, try to match not so much every single color. Every brand has what we like to call our Prada stripe color.
Mm-hmm.
And we use that term because if you're familiar with that brand, that red stripe. Verizon does it. Sprint used to do it before T-Mobile. T-Mobile has their pink. If you do have the ability to paint, don't worry about a lot of colors. Paint one color in an accent area. That will highlight your brand in a really big way.
Yeah, and there's a lot of graphics things you can do, cling vinyls and things that can decorate windows, ordering a neon sign. I mean, there's some things that can carry that brand theme through.
Yeah. Jordan says my cousin helped design my logo.
Wow, nice.
So then you got our joke.
Yeah. Bringing an established retail item to new markets, attention to new item to a market. Is that a question, Steve?
Attention to a new item in the market. Oh,
How do I bring
how do you bring that?
an established retail item to new markets?
That would deal with the market. Again, most of our great ideas start in our own head. They live in our own head. They live in our own immediate circle. But when you take an idea to a new market, you have to know what their needs are, what their desires are. Yeah, and using social media, that's big. Social media is both huge and detailed, because I was once told, and brilliantly, one of my colleagues told me, all media is social. Social media is a weird term that we've created to mean communication online on a mobile device. But all media is social because you need a sender and a receiver. As soon as you have more than one person, you have social media. So all media is social.
Yeah, and I do help people bring new products to market. That's what I specialize in. So I go through an entire vetting process with ideas before whether you're going to patent new ideas. Is it worth it? We do a lot of looking and forecasting at what is the market's appetite for it. Do we do just logos, or do you do website design, marketing, campaign strategy, and implementation?
Well, everything that you just saw actually was far more than just a logo. That was actually more brand strategy, implementation. A lot of it was business plan on the back end of that. We helped them devise the business plan with their board and how they were going to operate moving forward. So yes, we do far more than just logo design.
Yeah, and then in a lot of cases where we're doing brand box for a new startup, we will also help with website design if that's the initial ask that you need as well. We kind of filter and flush and go through all of that if that's something that you might be looking for. All right.
Did we get to everybody?
I think so.
Cool.
Any last?
Fun, guys.
All right. Well, Jordan said, thank you, love your work.
Thanks, Jordan.
I was gonna ask, are you guys all right with me putting like your contact email in the recording send out, just in case those that are watching the recording, if they have questions, they can shoot them over to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead and pop my screen up. So thank you, Ellen and Steve, for taking time out of your day to present for Grow Nebraska. Your guys' work is amazing, and I really enjoyed your presentation. And thank you to everyone that joined live, and to those of you watching the recording. We missed you, but we're so happy that you're tuning in. If you have any questions for me, you can email me at zoe@grownebraska.org, or as always, you can call our retail store, and any of our Grow Nebraska team members would be happy to help you out. We have some amazing upcoming training. So our next one will be next Thursday, October 26th. And that is with the Square expert Martin, and he will cover empowering your business, exploring e-commerce with Square Online. So if you're a Square user or don't have an online presence yet, we highly recommend that you register and attend that one. And then, as always, November 1st, the first Wednesday of the month, will be with Maria Elena Duran, and she'll talk about sell online with e-commerce tools. Holiday season is coming up, so you got to get those e-commerce websites squared away. So feel free to scan the QR code or go to grownebraska.org, and you can find the upcoming trainings tab and register for all of them that we have up so far. And then feel free to leave the Grow Nebraska Foundation a Google review. As always, we appreciate hearing from everyone that is either a Grow Nebraska member or has visited our Buy Nebraska store here in Kearney. And then look out for Business Plan Snap and Boost. This is a 5-week program designed to provide insight to both new entrepreneurs as well as those who have started a business seeking additional business knowledge. There's 5 sessions taking place across the state of Nebraska. You can check out the places on Nebraska Enterprises Fund's Facebook. I believe it's Kearney. I can't remember all the other places, but feel free to check out their Facebook for the other locations because they may be in your area. So feel free to scan the QR code or visit the Nebraska Enterprise Fund website for more information. And then save the date for Market Tech Conference 2024. This will be the 4th conference that I've went to of Market Tech, and it's a great day for marketing, connecting, networking, and learning some more knowledge because you can never have too much knowledge. So the date is February 29th, which is a leap year. I always point that out because it's super strange. And then speakers will be announced soon, so be on the lookout on our social media and or the Market Tech Conference website. Our keynote speaker is Troy Sindiage, and we are super excited to have him, and Maria Elena Duran will be back to present as well. So be on the lookout for this, and registration is open, so go to markettechconference.com to get registered early. But that is all of my announcements. And thank you again to everyone that tuned in live. And thank you, Alan and Steve. Have a great rest of your week.
Great. Thanks, guys.